Hello, and welcome. Welcome on into the Swear Word. I'm your host, Brandon Swear, and hey, this is a podcast for the Chiliad community by the Chili community. Regardless of your spice tolerance, this is the place for you. Up tonight, we have an amazing episode on deck. We're going to be recapping the most recent event of ZestFest 2026, talking a little bit about how that event went, and then also talking about the landscape of the overall spicy community evolution that we have had over the years. And are these events really there in the same manner in which we all want to see them? So, episode 188 starts now. What's going on, Swear Nation? So glad to have everyone here. Whether you're tuning in on YouTube, Spotify, Rumble, and or Apple Podcasts, thank you so much for being here and continuing to make this podcast what it is. And tonight, we are going to be talking about one of the longer-running spicy food events in the country, ZestFest, particularly speaking about ZestFest 2026, as that has just concluded. So we're going to be diving in and peeling back some of those layers, obviously talking a little bit about ZestFest 2026 and how that ended up playing out, and also talking about ways that maybe this environment has shaken up, and maybe the ways that it has changed, some things that might be important to have in an event like this, or just really kind of highlighting and discussing not just particularly this one event, but let's take a look at maybe the whole entire landscape of these events globally and discuss what actually makes a good event or a bad event. Let's go ahead and kick off tonight's podcast. Now that we've jumped on into this, we're going to talk about what actually makes an event successful in the first place. Because success can look different depending on really who you're talking to. A consumer may measure success one way, a vendor may measure success another. A sponsor measures it completely different than both of those. And then content creators, they also look at this in a little bit of a different light. Retail buyers, of course, they're looking at it differently. Distributors, well, those distributors would also be looking at this at a different angle, different light. Even the event organizers definitely look at it differently. So today, I want to do two things. First, I want to talk about my experience at ZestFest 2026, some observations, some of the vendors that really stood out, and a few products that caught my eye and attention. And of course, we're going to be talking about how the event felt compared to, say, the previous years. So during the second half of the episode, I really want to open up the conversation because I think we're at a very interesting point in the spicy food industry. As the industry is growing, consumer expectations are changing. Technology is changing, content creation is changing, and the way people discover products is changing. And events are having to evolve right alongside all of this. So if you're listening today, whether you're a vendor, a content creator, a sponsor, an event organizer, or simply someone that enjoys attending spicy food events, I want to hear your perspective because this episode here is about starting a conversation, not ending one. So let's go ahead and dive on in. Now, first things first, how was ZestFest 2026? Overall, I ended up enjoying it. So one of the things I try very hard not to do after events is judge them solely on attendance numbers. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes people often make because attendance solely only tells one part of the story. What I pay attention to are things like the energy, the excitement, were people engaged, were vendors having meaningful conversations, were attendees sampling products, were purchases being made? What were the relationships like as this whole process was happening? Did people leave feeling good about their overall experience? Because all of those things end up mattering. And in many ways, they matter more than the raw attendance number itself. Because events are relationship businesses. The products are important, but the relationships are what bring people back. One thing I noticed this year compared to the prior years was simply the amount of returning vendors that had been there year after year, just not signing up this year or not attending, whether they had something else going on or they disagreed with something else. That part is not the thing I want to highlight here. It's just simply the fact that a lot of those that had been there year after year didn't show up this year. Now, on the upside of that, that opened the door for some companies that are just starting out. It's opened the door for some companies that have, maybe been in the game for just a little bit, but this is their first event. So they're now getting to experience and they're getting to be at this event, at this festival, and be able to share with everyone that's attending, whether they're vending or they're there to enjoy the overall festival. They're now able to share their brand, their line with everyone there that otherwise might not have transpired. Now, let's talk about a few vendors that stood out to me. And before I do, I want to make something extremely clear here. Just because I mention a vendor doesn't mean that they're the only great vendor there. These are simply some that just caught my attention personally. So the first one that caught my attention here was actually, here, let me get their website pulled up while we have this too. Inca Shaman. So they stood out and captured my eye immediately with their lovely, bright, bold color backdrop that they had going on. And then you pan down to the table and it is another bright pop of colors and very well displayed. They caught my attention, and as you can see here through their website, it's no hidden secret that they are absolutely crushing it here. The same bold, grab your attention overall feeling that you get when you walk past that table really stood true even through trying all the different sauces. And I loved the ability to select very unique, very fun peppers and carrying forward really that Peruvian flavor, that Peruvian styling. It is absolutely one that caught my eyes, and I was glad to see them and meet with them out at ZestFest. The presentation that they had, the story behind it, the overall interaction, their energy, their love, their soul, their passion was fully on display during the ZestFest 2026. So was absolute pleasure to be able to get to know Inca Shaman, and I can't wait to have an episode with them on here. So keep your eyes peeled for that as it comes up. Plus, many of their products will be reviewed. So looking forward to diving on into those on Scorching and Swearing and a future podcast episode. But they had a great ability of being able to stop people that were walking by, create that conversation, and really draw them in with their overall flavors, the display, and their personality. And as you might not understand, oftentimes being able to grab someone's attention is much harder than people think. At an event surrounded by dozens or even potentially hundreds of brands at some of these events, getting somebody to stop is an accomplishment all by itself. And once you have their attention, then you've got to earn their interest. And after you've earned their interest, well, then you have to earn the purchase. It's not as easy as it sounds. So another vendor that stood out to me was Sauce Daddy. Now, what really impressed me here was, once again, the overall visual journey that they took me on before even speaking with him. Now, he had a nice, welcoming smile, of course, greeting everyone that came by, but the backdrop, the bright colors of the sauce, the great clean merch that he had displayed there, it was something that you visually wanted to take in. Now, sauces definitely did not miss the mark either. That green sauce and that orange sauce that he had, that green one was much more mild, but the mind was already running so wild with all the possibilities and ways in which to use the sauce. Then you jump over to that orange habanero hot sauce, the original, and absolutely see how versatile and useful that sauce is in its own right as well. Once again, utilizing the full experience, the full journey throughout the process. Another one that stood out is Divine Peppers, or mydivinepeppers.com if you're looking for them. Absolutely blown away by the packaging, by the overall presentation of their booth, by the energy that they were giving off, the overall care, the love, the passion. Once again, just really making sure that what they are providing is much more than just a cut and dry product. They're giving the full experience, the full ambiance, and very nicely executed, having something there on the table from everything from those that are barely able to handle any spice all the way to those that are looking to melt their faces off, those true chili heads out there pushing themselves. And there is, throughout each and every offering on that table, bright, bold flavoring and very unique approach to these different sauces and what they have going on. And a lot of that has to do with their love, their soul, their passion that they pour out into each and every product. I mean, visually, it was eye-appealing. The sauce itself, once it hit the tongue, told exactly the same story, if not amplifying to it. And then as you're getting that bag, as you're getting the box that has the sauce in it, there is not a single thing left undone in the whole entire process. So Divine Peppers absolutely stood out as well. There are so many others that really stood out, caught my attention, and I want to briefly mention some of those as well. Spicy Moss had nice 3 offerings. Once again, great visual telling going on there. And then you have Chingon Squeezins. Now, this had a beautiful dual honey lineup. 2 different types of honey. One was a chipotle, one was a hotter offering, I believe Dragon's Breath. Both phenomenal in their own right, as well as a nice, healthy, stout lineup of different sauces going on. So to give you an idea, here is kind of what some of those look like. The Texas Fire NATO, the Texas 3-Step, the Sheridan's Texas. Then we have the Texas Fire Devil, the Texas Gringo. I mean, I absolutely enjoyed just about every single thing out at ZestFest this year. And then I had the pleasure of checking out Tenenbaum's Foods. Now, they have a beautiful lineup of fruit sauces that have spice. And as that may be contradictory to most of what you are thinking, it is totally different than a fruit-based hot sauce. It is a fruit sauce that has been made spicy. The applications, the use cases, the intent behind it, completely different. It is a wildly impactful overall journey that it takes you on, and one that I cannot wait to dive on into, as some reviews will be rolling out, as well as looking forward to having them on as a guest, talk about the Tenenbaum's overall thought process and journey through the space, because there is a great story to tell there, and I can already see it. So another one that really stood out, of course, is, well, Point Blank Pepper Co. They've been there many times before, but the thing that really stood out to me from Point Blank Pepper Co. was those cucular weapons. Now, Steven, you tagged me in that video, and I am so glad that you did, because man, oh man, those pickles are absolutely tasty, just the right amount of heat, and I have plenty of fun applications in mind for those, so I can't wait to dive on into those, as well as get those reviews rolling out, and having on the podcast Point Blank Pepper Co. So, you know, that is just a quick highlight of some of those that really stood out to me this year. But, of course, you had those tried and trues, those ones that you expected to see there, doing their thing, rocking out, and having a great time. You had everyone from Danielle's Sauces, Karma Sauce, Old Bones, Madman Sauces, Pepper and Thyme, and so many more out there just absolutely crushing it. And, of course, being there with their great products, their great personality, their great story, and taking you on that flavor journey the whole way through. It's always a great thing to be able to share that time with that hot sauce family and be able to plug in, learn about their new products, learn about some things that they have going on, and of course, being able to just enjoy that time, that weekend together. One thing that I continue to see year after year is this. The brands that tend to win are not always the hottest. They're not always the oldest. They're not always the biggest. They are, though, usually the brands that tell the best story, that people are buying their products because they are remembering the stories. And the brands that create the most memorable experience tend to stick around. This is where I want to kind of start to shift gears because while driving home from the event, I found myself thinking about something. What actually makes a great spicy food festival? Not a good one, not an okay one, a truly great one. Because if you ask 10 different people, you're probably going to get 10 different answers. An attendee might say it's variety, a vendor might say it's sales, a sponsor might say it's sheer exposure, a content creator might say it's just accessibility to things, an organizer might say it's the attendance, and all of those answers can be correct, but what are the non-negotiables? What absolutely has to exist? And that's where I want your feedback. If you're a consumer, what makes you buy a ticket? Is it the exclusive products? Is it competitions that are happening? Is it celebrity guests? Is it content creators? Is it a live podcast that would be happening there? Is it cooking demonstrations, educational sessions, live music, family activities? What makes you say, I'm going next year? And what makes you stay home? Drop a comment below because I genuinely want to know. So now let's shift things here. Now, vendors, this next section is especially for you. What makes an event worth attending? And I don't mean what's your answer publicly. I mean honesty. I want some honest answers here. Do you judge success based on sales? Do you judge it based on the overall exposure? Or do you judge it based on the new retailers? New meetings with distributors? Is it wholesale opportunities? Is it an email growth list that you're trying to work towards? Some kind of social media growth? Are you looking for new customer acquisition? Because if we're being honest, many vendors make more money after an event than during the event. And it simply starts at the relationship level. The real value comes later. So vendors, I have this question for you. What makes you immediately sign up for next year's event? And what makes you never return? Now, here's another conversation that I think the industry really needs to have. Should these events be more than just simply a consumer festival? Should there be things like retailer matchmaking or distributor networking or private pitch sessions? Should there be industry panels talking about what's going on, best practices, etc.? Or should there be educational tracks going on here? Because imagine this. You spend an entire weekend selling bottles, or you spend 1 hour meeting with a distributor who places your product into, say, 200 of their stores. Which opportunity creates more value? I think that's a conversation worth having. And speaking of value, now let's talk a little bit about the content creator side of things. Because whether people like it or not, content creation is becoming increasingly important. Things like podcasters, reviewers, photographers, videographers, YouTubers, TikTok creators, Instagram creators. Those people often extend the life of an event by weeks, sometimes even months after the festival ends. And the content will just continue. So should creators have a dedicated media access? Should there be a creators lounge? Maybe some interview areas? Some media scheduling opportunities? I don't know. I think this is worth discussing here as we're talking about the evolution of the industry from where things started to where we're at now. Another area that fascinates me is loyalty. So why do some events build lifelong attendees while others struggle with simple retention? Should festivals have loyalty programs, VIP memberships, collector badges, exclusive releases, early access tickets? Because acquiring new attendees can oftentimes be difficult, but keeping attendees is often easier. And here's one that I think gets overlooked: food. not sauces, food. Should festivals offer full meal experiences? Or should you have food trucks? Should you have unique chef collaborations? Pepper-inspired dishes? Desserts? Coffee? Beverages? Because not everyone attends an event solely for just the hot sauce. Many attend because they're looking for an experience. And that's what brings me to my final question. If you could build the perfect spicy food event, what would it include? No restrictions, no limitations here, no budget concerns. Just build your dream event. I want to hear from the consumers. I want to hear from the vendors, from sponsors, from content creators, other distributors, retail buyers, everyone. Because let's have that type of conversation. Because if we can't evolve the landscape, if we can't work to be able to add additional value to what we have going on, things like attendance or retention or sheer amount of vendors or sponsors won't matter at all if what you're doing is outdated, not wanted. Ultimately, the landscape is the thing that needs to be evaluated and rolled forward in a better light. We're going to definitely dive deeper into that. I'm looking forward to hearing more about what y'all's thoughts are, whether you're just simply there consuming the overall experience, you're a retail buyer, you're a vendor, you're a sponsor, you're a host, you're a wholesaler, you're a distributor, whatever the case may be. Let's have that conversation. And before we wrap up, I want to thank everyone that continues to support the Swear Word Podcast. Whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Rumble, wherever you consume your podcast, thank you so much for that. And if you've enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment and leave a rating and review. It helps more people discover the show and helps us continue to grow the Swear Nation. So, the next episode drops Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Central. Sponsorship opportunities are currently available for the podcast. If you're a hot sauce company, a pepper grower, a spicy snack maker, a festival organizer, a service provider, any kind of brand looking to reach one of the most engaged audience in the spicy food industry, let's talk. And of course, a huge thank you to the current sponsors who help make this show possible. We appreciate your support, we appreciate your belief in this community, and we appreciate your partnership. Those sponsors are WebDX.one. Maybe you have an online site, maybe you had a guy at one point and you lost contact, maybe you never got around to building a website. Highly recommend checking out WebDX.one. Best of all, they get you looking great online while you get to focus on what you do best, as well as Podvision.io. Whether you're looking to grow your brand, start your brand, hit a bump in the road, you're trying to figure things out, highly recommend checking out Podvision.io for all of those needs. I'm Brandon Swear, and from everything from the world of hot, this has been The Swear Word.